So someone sent me a post recently about the difference between different attachment styles, which some of you may know about, some of you may not. So an attachment style, you've got, there was a psychologist, I think it's Ainsworth, who did I feel like I need to check myself with this, so I'm not going to say what it is because I can't remember if it's correct. I don't want to get cancelled. Basically, there was a psychologist who has coined attachment styles. So basically, there's 4 different attachment styles. You've got your secure attachment, so think your parents validated you, and when anything bad happened to you, you always felt like you could go to your parents, blah, blah, blah. Gabor Mate is probably the best person to go to if you want to learn more about like childhood trauma and attachment styles and how your past sort of defines you as an adult. And then you've got your anxious attachment. So this is someone who thinks that they need to do specific things in order to be loved, basically. So someone who may have been punished as a child, in whatever way that may have been, like love may have been withdrawn, or the perception of love being withdrawn because children don't really know the difference and haven't got the intellectual ability to be able to see that someone isn't doing it. And then you've got a avoidant attachment. So normally this one is to do with people who were abandoned as a child. So whether it be actual abandonment, so basically being made to feel like they weren't wanted, and that someone deserted them, and as a child losing the security of someone in their life because they've been abandoned. And then you've got disorganised. So this one's like maybe like a very, very damaging childhood. So think the sort of most damaging things you can think of that someone could go through, and this causes an attachment style that it's very unpredictable, very can be quite dangerous for other people to be around, if you were relating with this person as a friend, as a family member, as a lover, that kind of thing. So basically, someone sent me a post about narcissism, and then it also talked about attachment styles, and the conclusion that I've come to is that people who talk about narcissism and they haven't actually looked it up, someone else has said the word and they've been like, oh, I like it, oh, this means I don't have to take any accountability for the fact that they did this specific thing to me, oh, they're a narcissist. And it's like, maybe they're not a narcissist, maybe they have a lot of toxic patterns that come up in relationship with you, or they did, and that's put you in a position where you feel very angry, upset, hurt, and instead of looking into the actual person and looking into the depth of their psyche and looking into the explanation for their actions, and with that, don't think that explanation is the same as validation, because if someone did something to you that was toxic, that was extremely difficult, that was abusive, that was manipulative, that made you shrink, that made you into a completely different person in order to be safe, that is not excusable, but it can be explained. And on my healing journey, I've realised that if I can explain these behaviours and then completely understand them, I actually have more peace, because then I can be like, oh, that happened because of this and this, not because of my anxious attachment, not because I thought that maybe they did something that was really damaging to me, but it was actually my fault because I was gaslit into thinking that it was actually all me. And yeah, I think being honest with yourself and being curious. So don't just slap on the narcissist badge and leave it at that. Think maybe, is there anything that I can see within myself. So do an attachment style quiz. There's a book called Attached that you can read, and then you can maybe project all of this stuff onto the person that you're angry with, but maybe just have a think. And I think it would be really interesting to speak to a psychologist who specialises in narcissism, to actually be like, well, what is and what isn't narcissistic? Because just because someone is abusive, maybe emotionally abusive, maybe they withhold love from you, maybe they punish you, they do all these things that are not excusable, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a narcissist, because it just shows that the way they've found is the most efficient way of protecting themselves is by being defensive in a specific way that exhibits the behaviour of a narcissist. But the difference is, narcissism is classed as a personality disorder, and narcissism is something that basically think of the person that you think of, and then imagine that deep down within them is someone who is cunning, someone who is not emotional in any way, and all they want from you is some form of, they want to exploit you in order to be able to get something from you. So maybe you were in a relationship with them, and you were in a long-term relationship with them, and a narcissist is unlikely to ever show you any form of consistent love. And when they give you love, if it's a narcissist, it will be very charismatic, it will be very magnetic, it will be very calculated. But with someone who shows toxic traits and exhibits the behaviour of a narcissist who actually isn't, they will have moments where they are full of joy and full of love, and basically the protector within them, which comes on to something called parts work, which you can Google, the protector within them has gone to bed because they've realised that they're safe. And that protector doesn't need to come out and start punishing people, manipulating them, controlling them, because the protector is what is keeping that person safe. So for me at the moment, I've realised that my protector is quite vigilant, and I'm just getting to a point where I'm speaking to my protector and going, okay, I've got you, and adult Josie can keep you safe now, or now Josie can keep you safe, and you need to give now Josie a chance to prove herself to you, protector. And that includes taking accountability for who I am, for what parts I've played in relation, and then coming back to the attachment styles thing is I'm aiming, not consciously, towards a secure attachment, so that when I am whole, when I can hold myself, and I taught a yoga class yesterday, this is such a ramble, I taught a yoga class yesterday, and I talked about capacity. So I said, if you want to have an intention that surrounds the word capacity, so when someone distracts you, the idea of it was more to do with being able to bring yourself back to yourself when you're distracted by a noise, that kind of thing, by your thoughts. But the point of capacity, and I hate to say this is what ChatGPT said to me, but it was a really poignant thing that it said, was that safety from a place of trauma is control. So if something comes up that I realise I don't feel safe, I feel triggered, and the first response that my body might have is, okay, I need to take all of the measures in order to keep myself safe in this situation, because I am really anxious, I don't feel safe, and I don't feel in control. And then if you're healed, or you've done some healing work and you're more at one with yourself and you have more of a secure attachment with yourself, then it gets to a point where you feel that safety comes from a place of capacity. So when you've worked on yourself, you've stopped labelling everyone around you, and you've started actually labelling yourself with these different things to work on, then you can have such a whole sense of self that you recognise how you feel. You recognise how you act, you recognise how you've related in the past, and then you take time out for yourself and you go, I need to work on this shit. And then, basically, you can move forward from a place of capacity. And the vision I have from doing some work and then journaling on it, I have a tree. So I have like a big oak tree, really thick trunk oak tree. And this is an oak tree. It's not got a thick trunk though. And I am the oak tree. So when I found out some information recently and I was very, very triggered, I didn't think, okay, I'm going to shrink. I thought, okay, I'm going to keep myself safe. So I reached out to loads of different people and said, this is happening. I just want you to be aware of it so you can be there for me if I need you. And I advocated for myself in that moment. So I did take control, but I took healthy control, if that makes sense. And then I have realised that what I need to do within myself is, instead of like crouching, instead of hiding, instead of shrinking, I need to push my chest up and I need to be a tree. Because trees take up space. And you hear like, you're allowed to take up space. But what does that even mean? A tree takes up space unapologetically because it is a part of nature. And every human in this world is also a part of nature. So take up that space. Take up the space that you deserve to take up. And encloak everyone that comes into your space with love. But then also have a boundary around yourself that means that you do keep yourself safe from people who might want to exploit the parts of you that aren't whole. And work towards being whole so that people like that don't want to be around you.